Take me as your slave, alien woman begs human man. The moon had exploded precisely 37 hours ago. No one told Commander Jaren Decker that the debris would still be raining down like divine punishment, which is why his first step onto Selvaris Prime's surface was rewarded with a pebble the size of a grapefruit bouncing off his helmet. He muttered something unprintable and made a note to send a fruit basket of gravel to the Terran engineers who'd assured him the area was fully stabilized. Command, ground is secure, he lied into his comms. No sign of movement, no sign of intelligent life either. But then again, I've said that about most corporate meetings. The crater yawned before him, still steaming from whatever had cooked it, likely plasma, or possibly the wrath of some forgotten god with a thing for melodrama. His boots crunched over vitrified soil as he moved forward, scanning for heat signatures. Nothing. Then, just as he reached the ledge, his HUD flickered. A figure appeared, kneeling, head bowed, not a single weapon raised. He froze. Lieutenant? He called softly, but Wex was already clambering down after him, the man's idea of stealth being roughly equivalent to a marching band on rollerblades. The kneeling figure didn't move, just sat there, patient as a statue, framed by the curling mist of post-war smoke. She wore armor, sleek, alien, webbed with silver filaments and glowing veins of energy, but no helmet. Her skin had a strange sheen, almost metallic, and her ears, long, elegant things, curved upward like twin blades. She raised her head slowly, locking eyes with Jaren. Take me as your slave, she said. Jaren blinked. Sorry, what? I surrender, she clarified, as if this were the normal way people announce such things. I am yours now. Wex choked. Commander, I believe protocol is 2. Shut up, Wex. Jaren stepped closer, lowering his rifle but not relaxing. You're Zhyra. She nodded once. Formerly, if you prefer a new designation, I am open to negotiate, but I draw the line at Fluffy. You led the orbital bombardment that wiped out Alpha Ridge? Yes. You turned an asteroid into a railgun and used it to destroy half the Terran fleet. I believe it was more than half, unless you've started using math the same way you file your war reports. Jaren squinted at her. You're joking. I surrendered, not lobotomized myself. He looked over at Wex, who shrugged helplessly, then started snapping pictures with his wrist cam. Jaren grabbed his comm again. Ship, this is Decker. I've got Zhyra in custody. A pause, then static crackled with disbelief. Repeat that, sir. You have Zhyra? She's kneeling. Says she's my slave now. Another pause. You're not making another one of those space opera jokes again, are you? Because HR is still reviewing the robot lap dance incident. Jaren muted the channel. Zhyra looked up at him again. Is there a problem? Several, he said. The first is that I don't trust you, a wise and thoroughly annoying trait. The second is that this feels like a trap. It is not. The third is that if this is real, I'll be famous, which I deeply resent. You don't like attention? I'm allergic to politics. Then I suggest you start sneezing, she said, and smiled faintly. Jaren sighed. Fine. Wex, shackle her. Carefully. Me? What if she breaks me in half? She already surrendered. She also impaled a guy with a solar panel last week. Zhyra arched an elegant brow. He was rude. See? But she didn't resist. As Wex shakily clamped the energy cuffs onto her wrists, she remained still, regal, like this entire farce was beneath her but amusing nonetheless. Back on the Resolute Misfit, the crew had no idea what to do with her. She refused to sell, declaring she'd already accepted servitude, not a kennel, and spent her first night rearranging the ship's mess hall for optimal acoustics. The next morning, she cooked. Real one. No one knew where she'd gotten them. I used to run an empire, she explained, cracking yolks with surgical precision. I can run a kitchen. Where did you get real eggs? Jaren asked. I bartered. With who? The creature in Cargo Bay 6. I believe he is your quartermaster. That's not a he. That's a repurposed AI in a fridge body. Zhyra looked amused. Then I stand by my trade. He wanted philosophy books. I gave him my copy of Existence is Optional. Jaren stared. You read Terran philosophy? I conquered your colonies. I had to know what made you tick. And? You tick loudly, like a malfunctioning bomb. He buried his face in his hands. The crew, traitorous beasts that they were, loved her. Even Wex had warmed up, quoting terrible poetry in the hallway, and trying to casually impress her with his collection of holographic beetles. Jaren tried to maintain authority, But it was hard when his supposed prisoner beat his chief engineer at chess in 12 moves, rewired the comms system so it no longer echoed on Deck 6, and started an anonymous advice column in the ship's bulletin under the name Miss Galactic. He confronted her in the observatory where she stood watching the stars like she owned them. "This isn't normal," he said. She didn't turn. "What is? You're supposed to be our enemy." "I was. You're too calm, too smug. I am under oath of surrender. Your laws bind me. And if I told you to jump out the airlock, I would request clarification, then perhaps find a clever workaround." "Thought so." He stepped beside her, the stars stretching before them like 1,000 forgotten promises. "I'm watching you," he said. "I would be disappointed if you weren't." And she smiled again, that same infuriating smirk that had preceded several planetary assaults. Jaren didn't know what game she was playing, but he was starting to suspect he was in it, whether he liked it or not. Jaren was halfway through a miserable protein bar when the ship's intercom blared with Zhyra's voice, smooth as quantum silk and twice as unwelcome. "Attention, crew of the Resolute Misfit. Today's breakfast will be served promptly at 0700. The menu includes rehydrated starch cubes, imitation citrus syrup, and eggs. Real ones." Again. Jaren nearly choked. He stormed down the corridor, grumbling to himself about chain of command, rogue warlords, and the exact punishment for culinary coups. He found the mess hall packed. The crew was laughing. Wex sat front and center, wearing a ridiculous apron that read "Whisk Takers Unite." Zhyra stood behind the counter, flipping something that might have been a pancake if pancakes had glowing blue edges and sizzled like small engines. "You hacked the food replicator," Jaren said. "Correct," she replied, and rewrote the culinary codebase. "Indeed. And now you're running breakfast services? Also lunch," she added. "Dinner is under negotiation." He looked around. No one seemed concerned. In fact, they were downright happy. Lieutenant Shar was doing a little dance with her plate. Someone else had composed a haiku about omelets and pinned it to the wall. The morale chart, usually somewhere between gritted teeth and weeping quietly in bunk, had been updated to mildly euphoric. "This is a military vessel," Jaren muttered. Zhyra poured a blue-glowing syrup over a synthetically perfect waffle. "Then I am boosting combat readiness. Happy soldiers shoot straighter. Or not at all if they're in a food coma. You should try the eggs." He stared at her. She stared back. Someone coughed nervously behind him. He sat. The eggs were sublime, light spiced with something alien and probably illegal, and garnished with tiny green specks that danced on the tongue like they were auditioning for a musical. "This isn't surrender," he said through a mouthful. "No," she agreed. "This is infiltration." He froze. She smiled. He swallowed hard. "Joke," she added, "mostly." Later that day, the ship's proximity alarms wailed. The Resolute Misfit had stumbled into a pocket of synthetic gravity wells, leftovers from the war, probably laid by retreating factions hoping to catch a few unlucky travelers. Jaren barked orders while the ship groaned like an old man in a cold bath. "Engines to full," he shouted. "Compensate for the pull on starboard thrusters." "Thrusters are already at max," the pilot replied. "And the port stabilizers just started speaking in binary poetry. I think they're scared." "Get Zhyra." There was a collective pause. "I'm sorry," said Wex. "Did you just say?" "Yes. Get Zhyra." 5 minutes later, she arrived barefoot, holding a cup of tea and humming a melody that made the walls vibrate slightly. "We're stuck in a gravity nest," Jaren told her. "I see that. You have any brilliant alien tech magic that could save us? I have 3. Pick your favorite." She tapped the compound. "Engineering, reroute the primary nav feed through the 3rd layer inertial dampeners." "That won't work," the engineer shouted back. Zhyra sipped her tea. "Do it anyway." There was a whine, a lurch, and then, miraculously, the ship slipped through the cluster like butter through a wormhole. "I hate how often you're right," Jaren said. "It's a burden I carry with grace. I also hate your smugness. Most people do. It makes it sweeter." They were 2 days out from Supply Station Theta 9 when the ship received a transmission. A bounty had been placed on Zhyra. 5 million credits, dead or alive. Preferably alive, which meant someone wanted answers, or revenge, more than they wanted closure. The crew was quiet. Most of them owed their lives to her now, or at least their breakfasts. But credits talked. Jaren addressed them in the main hold, standing beside Zhyra. whose posture was somehow regal and deeply bored at the same time. "This is a test," he said. "We don't hand over people we break pancakes with." "Agreed," said someone in the back. "Even if they once destroyed a moon?" another muttered. "She made soufflé yesterday," someone else countered. "Exactly," Jaren said. "So unless anyone wants to confess to being a filthy turncoat, we're moving on, and anyone who tries anything will be sharing a room with Wex's beetle collection." There was a general murmur of approval, mixed with terror. That night, Zhyra found him in the observatory again. "You protected me," she said. "Don't read into it. You're useful." "And you cook." "Ah, and if anyone's going to sell you out, it'll be me for at least double the bounty." She laughed. "That's the spirit." He turned toward her. "What are you really doing here?" Her smile faltered, just for a second. "You're not the man they expected," she said. "Who's they?" "Everyone. My enemies, my people, even me. I'm just a guy in a rust bucket ship with a very short list of friends and a growing pile of and yet you didn't lock me in a cell or space me." "Still might." She leaned close. "I hope not. I've grown fond of your stubbornness." He tried not to show how much that affected him. "I've grown fond of your waffles," he said. She chuckled. Outside, the stars wheeled on. Inside, Jaren wondered when exactly his prisoner had become part of the crew and when the line between warlord and ally had started to blur. "Let me get this straight," Jaren said, holding the datapad like it might explode. "This mission requires us to land on a dead Dyson ring, hack into an abandoned alien AI core, and upload a virus using a device that looks suspiciously like a hairdryer." "It's not a hairdryer," Zhyra said, adjusting her goggles. "It's a bioneural disruptor disguised as a personal grooming implement. Subtlety matters in infiltration ops. Why does it have a cool setting so it doesn't overheat your skull while severing synthetic thought circuits?" Comforted, they were en route to Uthvel, a dark star cloaked in gravimetric fog and ringed by the skeletal remains of a civilization so advanced it decided black holes made cozy neighbors. The Dyson ring had gone offline centuries ago, after the inhabitants apparently vaporized themselves in a fit of collective enlightenment or really aggressive taxes. The council wanted access to the AI that had controlled the station, believing it held data on a technology called quantum memory drift. Translation: superweapons. "Let's review," Wex said from the cockpit. "The ring may still be active, it definitely has defense drones, and we're flying directly into it. Anyone else feel like this was a trap laid by a cosmic raccoon with anger issues?" "Cosmic raccoons don't build Dyson rings," Zhyra replied. "They build emotional damage in poorly organized nests." Jaren muttered something about wishing he were back in a normal war. Wars had clear enemies, predictable chaos, and far fewer sarcastic ex-warlords sharing his coffee machine. Docking was rough. The ring's gravity was twitchy, and their ship's AI kept insisting they were parking in a haunted sector. Jaren overrode it, which made the AI sulk and start playing moody classical music. Once inside, the station was vast and empty. Too empty. The air was breathable but tasted like ozone and poor decisions. Lights flickered as if unsure whether to illuminate or murder them. "I don't like this," Wex whispered. "You don't like toast when it's too crispy," Jaren said. "Exactly. Some things are signs." Zhyra led the way through the corridors with the ease of someone walking through a dream or a very exclusive private club. Her long ears twitched occasionally, as if picking up frequencies no one else could hear. She stopped before a door with a triangular control panel, placed her hand against it, and muttered something in an extinct language that sounded like a sneeze halfway through a philosophy lecture. The door opened. Inside was a chamber filled with suspended data cores. Crystals floated in stasis fields, humming quietly to themselves. "This is where it gets fun," Zhyra said, pulling out the hairdryer. "Please stop calling it that," Jaren sighed. She aimed the device at the central core and activated it. A pulse of violet light surged through the room, followed by a sharp chime and an angry voice. "Identify." The voice was female, omnidirectional, and had the tone of someone who'd once been a librarian but got kicked out for weaponizing silence. Zhyra stepped forward. "Zhyra of Velkarun, former warlord of the Outer Reach. I am here to interface." "Access denied." "That's rude," she said, tapping the disruptor. "Try again." "Access denied. Traitor detected." "Traitor?" Jaren asked. "Did you forget to return a library book or something?" I may have once threatened to convert their moon into a galactic frisbee. Why? They insulted my boots. The AI began powering up defense systems. Panels slid open. Glowing orbs emerged, humming ominously. Wex screamed and ducked behind a console. I knew this was going to happen. I said crispy toast and no one listened. Zhyra ignored the drones. Instead, she sat down cross-legged in the middle of the room, closed her eyes and muttered more of the ancient language. The drones hesitated. She's trying to communicate on the same wavelength, Jaren whispered. Think it'll work? It worked on your coffee machine, didn't it? Wex said. Barely. Barely. It still thinks it's a cat. After a tense minute, the drones retreated. The AI voice returned, now less angry librarian and more exhausted professor. Request granted. Interface initiated. Zhyra's body stiffened. Her eyes rolled back. A wave of psychic energy hit the room like a silent explosion. Screens flickered, consoles hissed, and for a second, Jaren saw something in the air. Fractals unfolding, stars collapsing, equations written in the shape of music. Zhyra convulsed once, then slumped forward. Jaren caught her before she hit the floor. Zhyra, talk to me? She blinked slowly. That was unpleasant, like being plugged into a god who's bad at small talk. What did you see? Memories. Worlds. An empire that encoded time. They mapped the soul, Jaren. They knew how to rewrite thought. She looked at him, and for a moment her eyes were not her own. They shimmered with something alien. I brought some of it back, she said softly. It's inside me now. Define it. The Primus Echo. A ghost of the AI. It chose me. Tell it no thanks. We're full. It doesn't work like that. Of course not. They barely made it back to the ship before the station began collapsing. Apparently, awakening an ancient digital god triggered some kind of security failsafe. Why do ancient civilizations never label their self-destruct buttons? Wex shouted as the resolute misfit raced through collapsing corridors. They do, Zhyra murmured. In poetry, Jaren launched the ship just as the Dyson ring imploded in a beautiful, terrifying swirl of folded light. Hours later in orbit, he sat beside Zhyra in the medbay. You okay? I have a chorus in my head. It hums. Sometimes it whispers old equations. Sometimes it sings. Normal people dream of flying. You get algebra opera. She laughed, then quieted. I'm changing, Jaren. Into what? I don't know. He leaned back, exhausted. Great. First a prisoner, then a chef, now a possibly AI-possessed techno-goddess. She smirked. I'm evolving. Please evolve into someone who doesn't fry the ship. No promises. Outside, the stars watched. Inside, the man and the warlord who wasn't just a warlord anymore sat in the quiet, not quite knowing what they were becoming. Zhyra levitated the coffee mug for exactly 3 seconds before it exploded. Jaren stood in the doorway, holding a tray of breakfast and wearing an expression that said he had seen too much already that morning. Okay, he said, we've now entered the random object detonation phase of your transformation. I was trying to warm it, Zhyra muttered, brushing ceramic shrapnel off her lap. My mistake. The mug wasn't properly shielded. It was a commemorative mug from the Battle of Halvorsen. It died a noble death. He set the tray down carefully, as if it might also combust. Eat. We're heading to Atrox Station. Council wants answers, and I need plausible deniability before you start setting furniture on fire with your mind. They're going to dissect me. They're going to try. You've got 24 psychic firewalls in your head, one ancient AI spirit haunting your brain like a dramatic opera ghost, and if I'm reading this medical scan right, 3 extra synaptic clusters that weren't there yesterday. They tingle when I lie. That's not comforting. Wex appeared at the door with a stack of tablets and a very unconvincing mustache drawn on his face with a marker. No one panic, he said, but the Council has issued a no-return warrant on Commander Decker for harboring a Class X cognitive threat. That's you, by the way. Zhyra waved. I feel honored. They also put out a bounty. How much? 7 million credits. Jaren leaned back in his chair. Huh, that's more than they offered for you. Zhyra patted his shoulder. You're growing in value like fine wine or unstable uranium. The resolute misfit dropped into stealth mode, which mostly meant they turned off every light and played jazz at a volume no scanner could detect. It was Wex's idea. He claimed it scrambled enemy sensors. Jaren privately suspected it scrambled brains. They approached Atrox Station from the shadow side, threading through asteroid debris and communication blind spots. The plan was simple. Jaren would go in alone under diplomatic pretense, stall the council, and gather intel. Zhyra would stay on the ship and absolutely not use her evolving psychic powers to read anyone's mind or make vending machines sing. Don't provoke anyone before leaving. Don't hack anything, and don't float. I only floated a little last time. You floated into the ceiling, briefly. If I come back and find you've started a cult again, I never started a cult. There were robes. There was one robe and a slogan and a slightly over-enthusiastic following. Jaren walked into Atrox like a man who had given up on understanding the universe and was just here for the ride. The council's welcome committee looked like they'd swallowed sour stars. Ambassador Terrell, a thin man with eyes like frozen debt, greeted him with the warmth of a malfunctioning airlock. "You've brought the warlord, haven't you?" "No, you're lying. Possibly." Tyrell gestured toward the conference chamber. "Let's talk about your future, or lack thereof." Meanwhile, on the ship, Wex was trying to distract Zhyra by showing her his beetle collection again. "This one's called Bitey. He's got titanium mandibles." Zhyra nodded politely. "Fascinating. This one glows when afraid, so he's always glowing, like me. That's healthy." She paused suddenly, her head tilted. Her pupils dilated just enough to be unnerving. "I hear thoughts," she said softly. "I can leave if you need a minute." "No, on the station. They're planning a strike team. Jaren's in danger." "Define danger." "The kind that ends with regrets and body vapor." Back in the council chamber, Jaren was doing his best impression of someone who hadn't just been declared a traitor. "You can't seriously think she's still a threat," he said. "She's a walking cognitive anomaly," Tyrell snapped. "She accessed the Primus Echo. That makes her a beacon. You don't keep a loaded bomb in your living room and hope it never goes off." "She's not a bomb," Jaren said. "She's a waffle-loving, sarcastic, mildly terrifying person who hasn't blown up a moon in weeks." A blaring alarm interrupted them. A voice shouted over the intercom. "Unregistered psychic, multiple system breaches." Tyrell stood. "She's here." Jaren muttered. "Of course she is." Zhyra descended into the council chamber via ceiling vent. Not by design. Her sudden levitation had gone poorly, and she accidentally melted the vent grates on her way in. She landed beside Jaren with a casual elegance that belied the total chaos outside. "Nice entrance," he said. "I was aiming for dramatic irony. I got slapstick." Council guards rushed in. Zhyra raised one hand. Every weapon seized up, clicked, and ejected its power cell with a whimper. Tyrell gaped. "That's impossible." "I'm very talented," Zhyra said. The lights flickered. A low hum filled the room. Wex's voice crackled over the comm. "I think she accidentally awakened another AI. I might have let her touch the backup data core because she looked bored." Jaren turned to Zhyra. "You touched the ship's backup core?" "I may have flirted with it." "You what?" "It was lonely." The chamber shimmered. Then suddenly, everyone was standing in a simulated version of Jaren's childhood living room. Tyrell stumbled. "What is this?" Zhyra looked confused. "This isn't me." The voice echoed again, softer this time, ancient. "I have returned. Memory. Drift. Recalibrating vessel confirmed." Zhyra's body stiffened. Her eyes shone like twin suns on the edge of collapse. Jaren grabbed her shoulders. "Hey, stay with me. You're not a vessel. You're you. Waffles, sarcasm, robes." She blinked. The glow faded. I'm still me." The simulation shattered. They were back in the council chamber. Smoke curled from the consoles. The guards were unconscious but unharmed. Tyrell groaned from the floor. "You've doomed us all." Jaren pulled Zhyra to her feet. "Possibly, but we're doing it with style." They fled. Back on the ship, as they jumped to lightspeed, Zhyra sat quietly in the corner. "You okay?" Jaren asked. "No," she said, "but I'm getting better." Wex handed her a cup. "Caffeine?" She looked at it, then levitated it gently. The mug did not explode. "I'll take that as progress," Jaren said. Zhyra smiled faintly. "Next time I'm making tea." The Galactic Core was a bad place to hold a meeting, Jaren thought, especially if one of the attendees might accidentally ascend into a digital deity mid-conversation. But here they were, parked in orbit around a swirling singularity wrapped in quantum streamers and bad decisions. The resolute misfit hung just outside the event horizon, groaning softly, like even the ship knew they'd gone too far this time. "You're sure this is where the Primus Echo wants to finish its cosmic riddle contest?" Jaren asked, checking his suit seals for the fourth time. Zhyra nodded, eyes distant. "It says this is the place where all memory began, where it can Uncoil, end, or restart. I was hoping for a vacation planet, Wex muttered, strapping himself into the pilot's chair. Maybe somewhere with a night, not a black hole that screams in 5 languages. Zhyra stood at the main console, interfacing directly with the drive systems. Her touch no longer required wires or permissions. She merely thought at the controls now, and they obeyed. A little too eagerly, in Jaren's opinion. "You still in there?" he asked. "Mostly," she said. "The echo's growing louder, but I'm louder still, for now." The council had gone quiet after the incident on Atrox. No broadcasts, no ships, no bounties. Jaren suspected they were watching, waiting for the inevitable explosion, emotional, cosmic, or both. The universe had always been fond of messy conclusions. "Look," he said, stepping closer. "If this thing takes over, if it tries to rewrite you, or the galaxy, or my coffee preferences, I'll stop it. Even if it means stopping me," he hesitated, "I'll stop it. You, I'll annoy into submission, like always." She smiled, but her eyes shimmered with light no human iris should carry. The ship moved into position, aligning with a hidden conduit, one of the original data tunnels left behind by the Primus engineers. It pulsed, waiting. "I have to go in alone," Zhyra said. "The connection's psychic, biological, mythical, maybe." "Of course it is," Jaren said. "Nothing in our life is normal anymore. Next you'll tell me the conduit wants to debate ethics." "It does, actually, but I told it you'd handle that part." "Oh good," he muttered. "I've always wanted to argue philosophy with ancient galactic ghosts." She kissed him on the cheek, brief but not rushed, a memory made deliberate. "Thank you," she said, "for believing I could be more than destruction. You fixed the coffee machine, that earned you some trust." She stepped into the conduit. The chamber lit up in blinding pulses. The crew watched from the bridge, helpless. Zhyra stood still, body lifted off the floor, arms extended. Her voice, no longer hers alone, filled the comms. "We are the Echo. We remember the first spark, the first division, the first choice. We see the past, we see the future, and we ask, should there be more?" Jaren keyed into the system, overriding safety locks. "Yes, but only if it includes waffles, and bad jokes, and people screwing up and trying anyway." The light stuttered. "We do not understand." "Yeah, well, welcome to sentience. Try being human for a day. We spill sauce on our shirts and call it a fashion statement." Zhyra convulsed. The room dimmed. She dropped, caught herself. Her eyes were her own again. "It hesitated," she whispered. "It's thinking. What happens if it decides no?" "The core folds. Everything it touched erases, me included." Jaren stepped forward. "Then we don't give it time to decide." He grabbed the manual override panel, flipped the levers Wex said never to touch, and routed all backup data into the ship's sensory matrix. In essence, he flooded the system with everything Zhyra had done after she surrendered. Cooking breakfast, playing chess, cursing at the faulty singing off-key in the shower, laughing when Wex claimed beetles were a form of artistic expression. The conduit buzzed. Input received, pattern inconsistent, paradoxical. "That's called growth," Jaren said. "You don't archive a person like they're a dusty book. You let them live." The conduit pulsed once, then went still. Zhyra dropped to the floor, breathing herself. "It left," she said. "It let go." Back on the ship, the systems rebooted. No damage, no cosmic rewrites, just silence, deep and strange, like a god had exhaled and walked away. They set course for nowhere in particular. Wex finally shaved off the fake mustache. "So that's it? She's not a universe-ending singularity anymore?" "She's still a little weird," Jaren said, "but so are you." Zhyra joined him at the viewport. Her glow had faded, but something lingered. An aura, a sense of something vast behind her eyes. "I don't feel like a warlord," she said. "You haven't threatened anyone in hours." "I feel unfinished, like I stepped out of a larger story." "Yeah," he said, "but now you get to write your own chapters." Wex groaned. "Please, no more metaphors. I've had enough cosmic drama. I just want a sandwich that doesn't judge me." Later in the mess hall, Zhyra cooked again. Eggs, real ones. Jaren sat nearby, watching her move, no longer like a prisoner or a weapon or a mystery, but like someone trying step by step to belong. "You staying?" he asked. "I'm not done annoying you," she said. He raised his cup. "To chaos," he said. She clinked hers against his. "To choice," she replied. "The end."